important thing is that we have clear expectations and clear
Mhm.
consequences ahead of time. But we should be able to communicate those and enforce those while being not angry, not impatient. We continue to speak gently. We let them know, I'm not angry at this is not about me being angry at you. I'm not,
Right.
but the problem is we do get angry and we're very irritated and we're very upset about it. And we just have to
Sure.
completely remove that and let the system work.
You talked about showing respect to our kids. And I think that as parents, sometimes it's hard to find that balance of I am the authority. I am, the one in charge, and we want to respect our kids. But how do we do that practically? How can we respect them in an authoritative way and set that example for them as they are learning how to handle life and interact with one another in that same way?
Right. I think the importance is to make sure that the authority that we have isn't in how loud we're talking. It's not in how mad we are. That isn't
Hmm.
that isn't what is supposed to be motivating our kids. Uh, Parents have the authority to discipline their children. They have the authority to take away privileges, or if they're little kids, whatever the punishment might be, and we can give consequences. And so the important thing is that we have clear expectations and clear
Hmm.
consequences ahead of time. But we should be able to communicate those and enforce those while being not angry, not impatient. We continue to speak gently. We let them know, I'm not angry at this is not about me being angry at you. I'm not,
Right.
but the problem is we do get angry and we're very irritated and we're very upset about it. And we just have to
Sure.
completely remove that and let the system work. We have
Yeah.
we have rules, we have consequences, and I patiently and cheerfully enforce those, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard thing to do. Okay, so yes, so respect and setting that example for our kids, that's huge. And I think that in living everyday life as homeschool families, we have so much opportunity, right? I mean, more than people would
Sure.
if they're apart from each other all week long, all day long. But again, it's because we're together all day that we have so much more opportunity
Yeah,
to have conflict.
that's right.
So there's the pros and the cons. There's a lot more pros to homeschooling, of course, but I just feel like, man, there's so many more opportunities for fighting and conflict, and it can get overwhelming, truly,
Yeah.
to the parent. Talk really quickly, and I know you've got more points, but I just in thinking about this idea of respect, I want to touch on the idea of older kids versus younger kids. And you've got that wide
Hmm.
range. You've got three who are out of your home, and then you've got a 10-year-old. So you have a huge range of kids. With your family, how do you deal with the respect of the younger kids showing respect to the older kids? And what kind of authority do your older kids have over your younger kids?
Mm.
And and I hope I'm phrasing this right, but and just building that relationship with each other as siblings. Um, I've heard stories of older siblings, especially in homeschool situations, where older siblings were given all of this responsibility and authority over their younger siblings, and they came off as like
Yeah.
bullies. Like they took advantage
Right.
of that, and because of that, it broke that relationship between the older and the younger. So, talk about that age difference between them, how they can show respect to one another,
Mm.
but still kind of bridge that gap.
Right. And this is going to be against the backdrop of what we'll talk about later, and that is teaching the children how to resolve conflict as far as all the ages. So there's a lot going
Okay.
on between everybody.
Yeah.
However, we do give our older kids responsibilities that we don't give our younger kids. So if, my wife and I, we have a date night every week and we
Mhm.
leave. Now, we used to have to get a babysitter, but now we have built in babysitters. If we leave the kids
Yeah.
at home, the oldest kid or the couple of oldest kids, they have responsibility. and they're to make sure that things are safe or clean or whatever it is. And so if they've been given that responsibility, then they need to be given authority as well. And so whatever the consequence system is, which isn't, obviously not spanking and things like that, but just whatever the consequence system is that's made clear ahead of time, we do tell the kids, your older brother or sister's in charge while we're gone, and you have to listen to them, and you'll be held accountable by us when we get home. Now, the important part is, just like we were talking about, if I am setting an example of how to be an authority and be kind and patient and respectful, then we're expecting that of the older kids. And we're saying to them, look, this is not your chance to bully and throw your weight around. That's not what this is about. And they will be held responsible. If I get home and find out they've been doing that, then that's an abuse of their, power. And of course, they will be held responsible for that as well.
Sure. Okay, let's park there then for just a second, because you've got you and your wife, Dana, who are mature Christians. You are raising 9 kids. You have strong relationship with the Lord. And then you've got a 16-year-old who maybe he doesn't have the same personality as you. Maybe he has an anger issue sometimes. Maybe, there are so many things that can play into this. And he's just not going to treat his younger siblings the way that you will. You've set the example for him. You've treated each other with respect. You've treated your kids with respect, but he's just not getting it. And I know the simple answer is, well, you just don't give him authority, but there's still that authority there because he's older. So how do you teach that child, who's maybe just the one who's a little bit more difficult, to still get along with the others? And he's just maybe not following in the footsteps of mom and dad and being gentle and kind and tender in his approach to his younger siblings. Or maybe it's the younger one. I mean, that could be totally reversed. Maybe it's the younger kid who has anger issues and throws tantrums, and they're not following suit either. And because as I'm hearing you talk, and this is all wonderful, but I think sometimes like we can paint this picture, well, you just have to set a good example, and you just have to be kind and loving and gentle to your kids, and they'll hopefully do what you're doing. But that is definitely not always the case. And I'm sure it's not the case always with your family as well, with 9 kids.
Well, I think, the next couple of points we'll get to later are setting basic rules of engagement. Okay. Very practical. And 2, and the second one after that is teaching your children how to resolve conflict. And so that's going to help set a lot more of a framework for how this works and how we teach, instead of just, oh, I'm nice, they're nice. So you're right. There's just a lot more to it. But you brought up a couple of things that I'll just address very quickly. One is, this is discipleship. This is, the fact is, I have to grow if I'm going to do this well. And I have to learn to depend upon Christ. I have to learn to let him live through me. I have to learn to deny myself. And this is me growing in Christ. And that's what I'm encouraging that son to do, or whoever it is, to say, hey, this is your opportunity to be more like Christ and to grow, and you can do it. And so we have to direct them to being closer to Jesus, wanting to submit to Christ more, but to be more practical about that question. It really is true that sometimes those older siblings lose the opportunity to have leadership. I mean, and we've had to do that. I mean, we've had to just bench some kids and say, you're not in charge while we're gone, because you're just really blowing this. And the reality of that is, they don't like that. And they realize that they're not operating at the age level they should be. And you can call them up and say, hey, we'll give you another chance, and we need to talk about this. But man, you need to take a break, because you're creating too much harm here in this situation. And so we're going to have to deal with this directly, and you're going to have to take a break.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.